Welcome to the Jerry Acuff Show. Today, I am so excited to have as our guest Dr. Kevin Elko. Dr. Elko is a remarkable person with accomplishments that are, I don't know, to me, so impressive, it's unbelievable. Not only does he have 2 master's degree and a doctorate degree, and I had a hard time getting my undergraduate degree, he's in the West Virginia Hall of Fame. He has consulted with the Steelers, the Cowboys, the Dolphins, the Saints. These are all professional football teams. The Eagles this year when they won the Super Bowl. With Nick Foles, the quarterback who actually had a lot of responsibility for them winning the Super Bowl. Florida State, the University of Miami, LSU, and just as a throw-in, the University of Alabama, where I think he is a fixture in Tuscaloosa. He talks also all the time to corporations on leadership and goal setting. He's the author of 4 books, and every Monday morning he puts out a thing called Monday Morning Cup of Inspiration. And I want to say, anybody who's listening to this that does not get his Monday Morning Cup of Inspiration, you are being cheated, because everybody needs this. Zig Ziglar used to say that, motivation is like bathing. You got to do it every day. Dr. Elko has a genius for keeping people inspired, for keeping people in perspective, for creating context for things that happen to you, whether they're good or they're bad. And he does this in a 4 or 5 minute podcast every Monday morning. You get it in your email. And I have been a subscriber for 3 or 4 years, and I would not miss one. So he speaks, he does workshops. He has his own CDs and DVDs, which you can buy online if you just go to his website, and we'll ask him how to get to his website at the end of our podcast. But I am incredibly honored to have Dr. Elko on, because I have been learning from him for several years now, and his Monday Morning Cup of Inspiration is just phenomenal. And the fact that the University of Alabama wants him to work with them, and he hasn't worked with them for a year. I don't know how many times he's worked with them, but I think I know he's got several more than one national championship ring. So, Dr. Elko, welcome to the Jerry Acuff Show.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you for all the kind things you just said about me, and I am excited to be on your show.
So Monday morning, I listened to your Cup of Inspiration on Enough, and I just loved it. What inspired you to talk about that?
I thought about it, and I've been thinking about how people have made change, and we don't talk enough about the whole concept of I had enough. When Rosa Parks said, I am not giving up this seat. Enough. When Martin Luther King went to Lyndon Johnson and said, everybody's going to vote. Enough. And I realized in my own life that when everything changed, I came to this concept of enough. And what we've done, Jerry, is we've given some concepts and some ideas and some emotions a bad name. For example, if I say the word anger, we'll think about road rage, or we'll think about holding a grudge. But the right amount at the right time, mixed with love, mixed with faith, mixed with I have a destiny, changed the world. And I read where Dwight Eisenhower smoked 4 packs of cigarettes a day, and he quit, just like that. They asked him, how? So I gave myself an order. Gave myself an order. And I've watched a change in my life. I've changed my diet drastically. I've changed some of my habits drastically. But I hit this concept, Jerry, of enough. So when there were things said about Alabama football team, and what was said was, they don't belong in the playoffs. They shouldn't be here. They're no good. And Nick Saban and I were talking. He goes, these guys played unbelievable when Vanderbilt said things about them. And he goes, I don't understand why you want somebody else's respect. And I said, I don't think that's it, Nick. I think it's self-respect, and it's this concept of enough. And so when they went into the final playoffs this year, they were the last ones invited in. And we got the concept of that's enough of people not having respect. Let's go get our own respect. And then it happened again with the Eagles.
Wow.
And with the Eagles, Jerry, it was the same thing that happened. And they said they don't belong in the playoffs. They shouldn't be here. So we came across the concept of enough. And we just saw how it catapulted. And I never saw anybody talk about it, but I examined my own life. And every time there was a positive big change, there was this enough state I came to. And that's where kind of watching Alabama and watching the Eagles this year and helping them go to the championships, this concept of enough came into play.
Well, it's brilliant because, I think of the things. I mean, I'm getting ready to step down as president of my company. I'm going to still be the CEO. But I came to the conclusion that I'm really good at running a company with 10 people, and I'm really, really good at running a company with 1,000 people. But I'm not that good at running a company with 30 people. And so, enough of the emails, enough of dealing with the daily decisions. There are people in my organization who are better at that than I am. And so I just think it's a powerful concept.
It is a powerful concept. Jerry, Schultz started Starbucks. He grew up in the projects, had no money. So his family had no benefits, had no ability to go and get hospitalization, they had no money. And they're finding that from those families where there is dysfunction, that people are growing up and they have challenge in life. But they're finding out that these people that are doing super things, extraordinary things, they're coming from the same families. And Schultz from Starbucks got this concept of enough. And he started a company where everybody can get benefits. That's why you pay what you pay for a cup of coffee.
Wow.
But that's really what they were getting to, and that's the enough concept.
Gotcha. It's brilliant. The other one that I love and I think of often is you have to do the impossible. In order to do the impossible, you have to see the invisible.
The Australians in the World Cup in yachting were down under, last place every year. So they listened to a recording of somebody like you who talked them through imagery of winning the race. They were in last place. They listened to that recording 3 times a day in groups of 2 for 4 years. They won it. Came up to Rhode Island and won it. They go from worst to first. They interview the captain. How'd you do this? So what? How'd you win? So we already won 5,000 times. What's the big deal? So this is an important concept I'm going to give you next. Every one of us, Jerry, Kevin, we have an imagination that runs 24 hours a day. We miss this concept, and it's a really important one. If you don't take command of your imagination in reverie, it will take command of you. And if you don't take it, it will run you to a dark place, a paranoid place, a no-hope place. We're all going to hell place. But if you could take command of it and see it, and see a future, and see what a phrase I use, so what, now what, you can manifest it. So to do the impossible, you have to see in your mind the invisible. And the reverse is true, Jerry. I tell the story about this guy heard a burglar down in his kitchen. He went down and said, "Are you a burglar?" I said, "Yeah, I'm a burglar." He said, "Do you mind waiting a minute? My wife has been telling me you're going to come for 35 years. I'd like to introduce you to." We have to take command of our imagination, or it will run you into the darkest, smallest place. And all I kept on talking to Nick Foles about before that game, faith, 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 faith. And I just kept on talking about see it before it happens. It's a tool God gave us, but if we don't take command of it, it'll run us to a dark place. If we take command of it, it will lift us to a high place.
One of the great changes I had in my life was in 1981. I read a book called Winning Strategies in Selling by Roger Staubach and Jack and Gary Kinder. And literally I read it because I had not read a book in 10 years. of any magnitude. I was teaching these people how to sell, but I didn't know how to do it. And so I thought, well, a football player probably knows how to do it. And so I read the book, and Staubach said something that changed my life in there. He said, chances are you'll be the same person 5 years from today that you are today, except for two things: the people you meet and the books you read. The person who won't read is truly no better off than the person who can't read. And I remember saying to myself, enough. I got to start reading. So I've read 585 business books since then. I've read one book 69 times. Now, the book I read 69 times is a book called Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz. And Maltz was a plastic surgeon who coined the term self-image. And he says, the human brain can't tell the difference between an imagined experience and a real experience. And so one of the things that he taught you was that you have to believe in your goal-seeking mechanism, that if you get exquisite clarity about what you want to do, if you have belief, real belief that you can do it, and if you have belief that you're worthy of it, the universe will bring it to you. And I tell people all the time, I said, most people don't get on the path because they can't see the end of the path. And it's exactly what you're saying. To do the impossible, you have to be able to see the invisible. You have to know that somewhere out there, it's there. You just got to go find it. And I have found that to be, it's one of my 5 rules for setting and achieving stretch goals. How do you do incredible things? Most people don't know how to set and achieve incredible things. How do you go from being a district manager to running a pharmaceutical company that's, one of the largest ones in the world in 5 years? How do you do that? And there's these 5 rules, but I focus a lot on the fact that the person most likely to talk you out of incredible achievement is yourself. And it's because you can't see the plan. You're not meant to see the plan. The plan is to be revealed to you as you get exquisite clarity on what you want to happen, and that you have the right kind of thoughts and self-conversation like Nick Foles did.
You are so right. I read Psycho-Cybernetics, and even though he was a plastic surgeon, he's considered father of sports psychology.
Right.
And when I read his book, he convinced me, interesting to something you're saying here, he convinced me to go down this field I went. And one of my best friends was Jack Kinder. I mean, I love Jack. We used to visit with him all the time in Dallas. And these two guys that you're talking about, Kinder, and I worked for the Cowboys for a long time, but I never got to know Roger. But one of the things Maxwell Maltz talked about was he said, I'd do surgery on someone, and I would do surgery, let's say, on a woman, and she was just beautiful. And I would take her over to the mirror and take the Band-Aids off. And I said, what do you see in the mirror? She said, well, I'm ugly. So wait, look in the mirror again. So I'm ugly. And he goes, there was an image in her head, and there's one in that mirror. Which one mattered? So I spoke to the Packers the night before they beat the Steelers in the Super Bowl. We talked about the land of milk and honey. And when Moses had a group look at the land of milk and honey, they came back and said, it flows with milk, flows with honey. Now, watch what our imagination does, Gary. Watch what it does here. But they're giants, and they see us as grasshoppers. How do you know how they see you? You didn't even talk to them. How do you know how they saw you? And watch the damning blow. We see ourselves as grasshoppers.
Right.
If you know the story, 2 people stood up, Caleb and Joshua. Let's go right now. Let's be bold. And it's one thing I had Nick Foles saying to himself under his breath the whole Super Bowl. Be bold. Be bold. Be bold. 2 people stood up, Caleb and Joshua. Of all those Israelites, Moses didn't make it in the promised land. None of them did, except 2, Caleb and Joshua.
Wow.
It's identity. I have to see the end goal, but why not me? Why not me, Jerry? Why not me? Why can't I? If another man can, I can. Why not? But the only two in that whole crowd that saw that they could possess that land, that they could complete that task, was Caleb and Joshua. It was not just what you said beautifully. They could see the end job. They knew they were worth it.
Right.
They knew they were worth it.
Well, the other thing that I believe that most of us need, I don't think all of us need, but I think you're walking, living proof that a lot of people need. I think if you are going to expand your I am dimension, you need a catalyst. And that catalyst is either rock bottom, or it's someone that you like, trust, respect, and admire that sees you in a way that you don't see yourself, that can teach you things that'll bring you into a different level of performance. And because of their belief in you that you are right. And that's why I think what you do is so incredible. I think it's why what my company does for our clients is so incredible. I spoke to 600 people yesterday, about selling by thinking like a customer, because my idea is, people hate to be sold, but they love to buy. And then I said to myself years ago, well, why do we teach people how to sell if they hate to be sold? Why don't we teach people how to get customers to buy in? And if they don't buy in, and they shouldn't buy in, then you ought not be talking to them anyway. But my point is, a catalyst for change oftentimes is necessary. I mean, having someone like you or like me in a company, or excuse me, or with an individual is really, really important. I think I know the answer to this next question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Where does your inspiration come from?
I read the Bible every morning, and I pray every morning. And I believe that I don't have many gifts, Jerry, but I believe it's my job to do one. And I do one self-talk phrase all the time. It's out of Tuscaloosa. I'm not looking for blessings to come into my life. I'm looking to be a blessing in someone's life.
Yeah,
and if I can speak that and do that, at the end of the day, it's a good day.
Yeah, I always tell people when I speak that I think that there's universal truths. There's that never change, and I think one of them is when you give, you get. Now, if you give to get, then that's manipulation. But if you give because you believe that it's your responsibility to give, to share your wisdom, to share your knowledge, to help people succeed. I know my wife says to me, you get a standing ovation every time you speak. She said, doesn't that make you feel great? And I said, no, I don't feel great. Well, what do you feel? I said, I tell you what I feel. I feel like they earn that I earn my money. I feel like they paid to have me inspire their group. They paid for me to change their group. And I also feel like there's a high probability that they'll want to hire me again, but I don't feel proud or happy. I'm glad, but I ain't proud or happy. They paid me to be that good.
And you touched someone. You made a difference in someone's life. And somebody is going to have a better day or understand the truth better because they heard you.
I'll tell you a quick story. I was mentoring one of our athletes at VMI who's probably, and he's from Pittsburgh, by the way. And at some point in time, you ought to meet him. He's the most remarkable young man I've ever met. And I'm talking to him, and I'm trying to teach him lessons just as a mentor would teach lessons. And I get a letter one day from his mother. And her mother sends me an email basically and says, I want to thank you for teaching Alan and changing his life and my life. Now, I'm trying to understand. I've never met this. I met this woman one time. How did I change her life? And then she goes on to tell me that she had this child when she was 14, when she was in foster care. And she made the decision to raise this child. And let me tell you something. I don't know how she did it. Grace of God, I'm sure. But she raised an incredible human being. But I never intended to help her. I intended to help him because he asked me to. But I think the reality is, this is one of the things that I tell Buzz, is that I believe that a very small part of immortality is the things that we leave behind with other people that they pass on to generations and generations and generations. That's part of the way that we become immortal. And I think we do it in many cases the way you do it, which is with phrases and making people think. How do you figure out what to say? I mean, you do this Monday morning cup of inspiration every week. How do the ideas come to you? I mean, it's hard enough for me to write a blog.
I'm reading all the time, and I have things happen to me as I travel, or I have things that will come across my mind as I go. And I also have a bunch of companies that people who call me and say kind things, like the person that the mother did to you. And so I'll just think about the lesson that's on my mind, and I'll put it down. But often I'll have someone call me or send me a message, said, "Can you speak on this topic or speak on that topic?" And then I just pull together my thoughts and do so.
Gotcha.
So that's where it comes from. It's just being out here in the world and on the road, and you just get different ideas on the road.
Yeah, and it is true. I mean, I'm thinking today as I was coming in here to do this podcast, this woman who's taken me all over Dallas this week is one of the most customer service oriented people I've ever met in my life. And so and I still don't know what she's going to charge me, but I don't really care because she's been unbelievable. And I'm saying to myself, I got to write a blog about this lady because she's just unusual. Most people want things to be transactional.
I mean, one of the things that you're saying is I have never been in a building that had less strife than the Philadelphia Eagles. Never in my life. And I guess I didn't put a lot of energy into everybody needs to get along until I saw it this year. And our head coach, Doug Peterson, never talked about strife or getting along. Who was it? And it just spread, and everybody kind of caught it, and they became sort of his leadership. Jared was amazing to watch. So you teach a son at VMI, and the mother catches it like a virus. And we're starting to find there's research out there now that says that thought and a virus are the same.
Wow.
Whitney Houston overdoses and drowns in a bathtub in the Beverly Hills Hilton. A few years later, her daughter catches it.
Right.
Catches. In Atlanta, overdoses and drowns in a bathtub. We catch this stuff. One way or another. Positive and uplifting, negative and downcasting. We catch it.
Right. Yeah, I often say the speed of the leader is the speed of the group.
Absolutely.
And the truth is that I'm going to catch what you have. And so if you're my leader, I want you to catch enthusiasm, excitement, hope, a belief that we can actually win, that we can achieve. I want you to catch those things. But I can't catch them. I can't get you to catch them if I'm negative, if I'm always beating up on people. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't times that you need to have, difficult conversations with people who aren't doing their work. And usually when I have that conversation, I hold up my hand and I say, okay, here's what I need to understand. Your performance is here. Your capability is here. Can you help me understand what's the difference? Why does this difference exist? Now, what's fascinating about that, Coach Kevin, is I have done that, I bet, 150 times. I have never had anyone argue with me about their potential. And what they do is they immediately begin to talk about, honestly, the things that they're not doing. And it's been a great way to actually coach people up, is to put it on their shoulders. It's not for me to say, you got to get better at this, you got to get better at that, you got to get better at that. It's to get them to say it. It's the old thing, if I say it, you doubt it. If you say it, it's true. And so I'm constantly trying to figure out, how do I ask these questions where people give me honest answers, but their honest answers are answers that lead them to their own self-awareness. Because my belief is this: the key to all growth and development is self-awareness. It's knowing when is enough enough. It's knowing that I'm good at this, I ain't good at this. It means that I know that if I'm going to win the Super Bowl, I got to be bold. It's the key to all growth and development is self-awareness. And most people have very little self-awareness. So
this phrase saved my life.
Which phrase?
The best year of your life will be the year you take ownership of every problem in your life. Changed my life. Saved me. I can go into the depth. The best year of your life will be the year you take ownership of every single problem in your life. I own it. Mine. Changed it. Charlie Wiedemeyer, you probably know Charlie Wiedemeyer's story. He got AL. He became the head football coach at Los Gatos High School, California. Diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease. As soon as he got the job, he developed a system of communicating to his wife by moving his head and his body, and every one of those meant a word. And she coached the team. He was given 1 year to live. He lost his ability to walk as soon as he got the job. He lived 32 years. He's the winningest coach in the history of California football. He won 178, 14, and 1 because he owned it.
Wow.
Ownership will change your life.
Well, if you don't
have that phrase, I do it all the time. And so when you went to somebody, when you talked to them, what you did beautifully gave them ownership.
Right. It has been an incredible honor to have you on our podcast, Kevin. Do you have anything coming out that people need to know about in addition to?
We have a couple things coming out. We have a program coming out on Lightspeed on the difference that culture makes, and it's a program for coaches.
Right.
And so we have that coming out on culture, the difference maker. It's a program with coaches. We have CD series we do in if you go to drelko.com. We have one coming out on finish, and that will be the new one we're going to come out with in a couple weeks. And finish is from the research from a guy at MIT named Cal Newport, and he has a phrase: there is one obsession in all successful people's personality. They have to finish everything they start. So we are going to work on the whole concept of self-talk, talking to yourself phrases, and bringing things to a finish. And that's a new one we'll be coming out with in a few weeks.
Wow, that's exciting stuff. Well, I will say to our listeners, anything that you get that Kevin Elko does, you will get multiple whatever you pay for. I'm excited personally about your Lightspeed thing because I believe that this whole thing on culture is something that transcends football.
I do too. I do too. And I think the thing I've seen at Alabama and the Eagles was the whole concept of culture. And that's why we got into this thing at Lightspeed and trying to do that program. So it will be a on-demand program. It's called Building Winning Culture, a blueprint for coaches. And I think it will help. I think it will help coaches, but it'll help all athletes. I think it will be a program they'll really like. Well,
I know if you did it, it'll be great. Let me just sort of summarize some of the things that I took away here because you are a fountain of knowledge. I really love your explanation about enough, and the Rosa Parks example is so perfect. You know, I've had enough. I am not sitting in the back of that bus anymore, or it was in a restaurant, actually a Woolworths counter. You know, the imagery concept that, you know, to achieve the impossible, you have to see the invisible. Maltz's work on imagination. I loved what you say about the fact that if you don't take care of your or don't take command of your imagination, it will take command over you. And I think that's 100. And I'm fascinated by the fact that you were friends with Jack Kender because he changed my life. That one quote changed my life, and it was actually attributed to Charlie Jones, but they had it in their book.
Yeah.
Your quote: "The best year of your life is the year you own every problem you encounter." And I think you said it differently than that, but you know, people change in phrases. People change at moments. And I've had many moments and phrases here from from you that have changed me. So thank you very much for being a guest for our program. If you're a listener, how do I get to, is it your website?
Just go to drelko.com.
Dr. Elko.
And you'll see all the stuff, drelko.com, drelko.com. And we'll have all the information there for our programs and our books, and be able to even direct you toward our program we have up and coming with Lightspeed. My fellow that runs all that's a really, really wonderful guy to be around, Sean. So anything you want to get to me, just leave a note to Sean. I call him Snake. Where I'm from, everybody got a nickname like that. Snake, Possum, Dirty Weasel. So just give him a little message there and get it to us. But go to drelko.com, and you get all access to all the stuff we do. And you can even send me a message, and you can get what you talked about we started for free. You get the Monday Cup of Inspiration every Monday.
Well, everybody ought to get that, and I would say that there are many, many people that could use the products that you have, the DVDs that you have, the online stuff that you have. I think is going to be a gigantic hit with coaches, but I also think you're going to find that corporations are going to love it too, because engagement, culture are things that drive organizations' success or drive them into the ground. And understanding how to do it is really, really important. So thank you, Dr. Elko, for an incredible podcast today. It was terrific meeting you. I look forward to meeting you in person one day. I'd love to have the chance to pick your brain and learn even more from you. And as I end every podcast, I will say, if you don't get Dr. Elko's material, it's probably not possible that you can be what I want you to be, which is be incredible.
You're listening to RNCN, the digital destination for premium talk radio.